Iran is challenging the military hegemony. When you are at war, leadership strikes are a legitimate target.
मार्स पे पहुंच गए, चांद पे पहुंच गए, बट हमसे एक जेट इंजन क्यों नहीं बनता?
Cold War 2.0 between USA and the Dragon Bear.
As a country and as a force prepared, कि what, God forbid, if a similar kind of a scenario is there where we don't have a leadership.
Tomorrow, if the Indian state decides, or the head of government decides that Hafiz Saeed has to be picked up, deposited $3 billion in Chinese banks. और अभी वहाँ 1500 शिप फंसी हुई हैं बैकलॉग. तो 1500 शिप पे ये कितने पैसे बनाएंगे? US sanctions waiver to Iran will be giving Iran 10 times as much money as Obama deal would have. Bonanza. Iran has got more sanctions relief by closing the strait than the nuclear concessions it made in the past. And while China has 120 days of reserves, we just have about 10 to 12. The Americans have 42,000 satellites. The Chinese have 15,000 satellites in LEO. We have one or two. These $35,000 Shahid drones hit Amazon data centers, Microsoft. They hit the very data which was being used to write war fighting. Game is not about who has the bigger bomb. Now the game is who has a higher threshold for pain. $300 million per day for our oil.
Which is the biggest problem plaguing the Indian growth? Is it the activism? Is it the bureaucracy? Or is it maybe later on some other executive or parliament which is not taking the decision?
The Americans have consumed 1/5 of their Tomahawks, 1/3 of their interceptors. They are spending $9 billion a week. Their Indian counterparts in USA, our GDP would be $25 trillion.
Phones and the cameras and the Huawei's and everything of the world, they are collating data across the world. And that may or may not be decrypted.
दिमाग का खेल है, पैसे का खेल है. 500 ship navy. The day it clears the first island chain, in 8 years it will be in Los Angeles. And in 8 years it will also be in the IOR.
Decryption of nuclear codes also happen. Are we even thinking on those lines as a fourth or third most evolved power?
We have to play the big game. रशिया यूरोप के हवाले. आप इसको संभालिए, अपना डिफेंस बजट बढ़ाइए. ये नहीं होगा कि मौज मस्ती आप करें and we pay for your defense. Spend so much on the military, but damn 100 generals are all corrupt.
So that means today Pakistani pilots could be ready to fly a J-20 and attack India. Jay and friends, welcome to Revelations with Manas Ji. The Iran-US-Israel war is going on. But what's there for India? What is the lesson that we have learned? And we should be learning. How we should plan our country, our military capabilities, our economic capabilities, technology capabilities. Well, I had these questions in my mind and I just thought everybody else also had. And I could think of no better name than General Raj Shukla sir. Thank you sir once again for coming in. And as I said, Saraswati, Lakshmi and Durga का मिश्रण हमने लास्ट टाइम इस बारे में बात की थी. So आपसे ज़्यादा कोई भी उचित नहीं है इस बारे में. So if you look at traditional wars, the way, and correct me if I'm wrong, जैसे हम आर्मी में या हमारी फोर्सेस जिस तरीके से डेवलप हुई हैं ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम, राइट, देयर आर सर्टन कोर अजम्पशंस कि लेट्स गो एंड कैप्चर द लीडर एंड लेट्स गो बिहाइंड द कमांडर्स. नाउ इफ यू लुक एट व्हाट हैज हैपेंड ऑन डे 1 around 8:10, 8:15 time, the leadership of Iran and IRGC was knocked off with a single blow. What are the assumptions that Indian Army is still working and Indian Armed Forces is still working on that needs to be changed, taking the lesson from what has happened very recently?
So, Manas, thank you for getting me back on your show. See, I am a believer, you forget the rights and wrongs of it. Whether you should have struck the head of a state, that's one argument. I am a believer in creating military capacities that expand political options. So let's say, tomorrow if the Indian state decides, or the head of government decides that Hafiz Saeed has to be picked up, is the Indian military in a position to extract him like Maduro was? So I make the argument as a soldier that I create capacities, they expand political options
but I'm firmly under your control. You decide. The contrary argument is that if you debate the intent of it without creating capacities, when the time comes, what's the point? Look at these decapitation strikes. My understanding is that when you are at war, leadership strikes are a legitimate target. If they are a legitimate target, do we have the capacities? Now, if you decide to create capacities, it will take you 10 years, 15 years. So let's see how they have been created. To take out Maduro, what all was done? You had CIA stealth drones, human agents for 5 to 6 months. You had presence in the LEO, massive presence.
True.
You were monitoring cyber, perhaps cameras were hacked. So you have what is known in military parlance as pattern of life competencies. So the American military knew what Maduro had done over the last 72 hours. What time he got up, which safe house he slept in, how many times a day did he change his safe houses, whom was he with, or when did he pet his dog. Now, because you knew what he had done over the next 72 hours, through AI and Maven and Claude, nothing of the future, they're actually being used. You could predict what he would do over the next 48 hours. And in addition now, you could do what is called natural language queries. So you could ask that if this is what he is going to do, these are the points of insertion and extraction for the delta force. What are my options? Should I attack by day? Should I attack by night? What should be the right asset combination? And you would get answers in a common operational picture with pros and cons. You would get options, you would get predictions. All of this was not available. This was exactly what was called the fog of war. You told a chap on the map that this is probably where Maduro will be. Now go and find out. Look at the monumental changes. And these capacities don't come without investments in decades. Now, if the Americans have 42,000 satellites, the Chinese have 15,000 satellites in LEO, we have 1 or 2. If you don't have LEO presence, you will not get persistent surveillance, you will certainly not get offensive ISR, you will not have pattern of life competencies.
So we're talking about 42,000 to 182.
Exactly. So,
जिसमें भी अभी कुछ खराब भी हो.
Create the capacities. Look at the Navik, it's on its last legs.
Right.
So the point in India is capacity creation. Look at decapitation strikes. You did all this. Now you had Claude and you had Maven. What does Maven do? Maven is a wonderful tool of data ingestion and developed by the likes of Alex Karp. They are near geniuses. So I'll come to another point. National security is an H1 game. It cannot be mired in the L1 disease. The best of talent, the best of technology, the best of innovations. What does Maven do? Maven takes any data piece. It could be SAR satellites, it could be other satellite imagery, audio intercepts, social media feeds, soldier-owned devices. So if Maduro was exercising with a device, he was emitting data.
Somebody was captured.
And you ingest all this data, and in Ukraine, they have in consequence developed digital killing webs. So from detection to strike, it is 5 minutes. Now, Claude and Maven in Epic Fury gave you these targeting packages, and these targeting packages are now churned out at machine speed, not at human speed. I remember I was G1 Ops 10 Div. We had some great GOCs. They would debate the plans, leave at 6 and say, when I come in the morning, show me the slides. What were those slides? They were a plan. Yeah. His mind was converted into a plan. We never slept the whole night because you had to download an image and then, label it. Whole night. Today it's done in minutes. Claude. And therefore, you knew You could, between 8:10 and 8:15 a.m. Israeli Standard Time, you took out 50 leaders. Just see what a monumental change. It's like World War II. In the first 24 hours, you take out Churchill, you take out Roosevelt, you take out Patton, you take out Montgomery. Now, these are all the consequences. Look at what is happening. I'm told in Ukraine, drones, inventions are changing every 2 weeks. So by embracing these innovations in drones, over the last 2 months, the Ukrainians have reclaimed 1,25,000 square kilometers.
They've reclaimed that.
Now, we have an option. You can either churn out RFPs over 2 years or embrace invasion in 2 weeks, innovation in 2 weeks. Look at costs. Iran is on the right side of the cost curve.
True.
I'm told since the war has begun, the Americans have consumed 1/5 of their Tomahawks, 1/3 of their interceptors. They are spending $9 billion a week. The budget, the defense budget of the Americans last year was $950 billion, I think, and they have increased it to $1.5 billion and now $200 billion more for this conflict. America has got debt of $39 trillion. When the debt servicing starts exceeding your defense budget, that's the beginning of your decline. So costs matter. So I'm saying national security today is technology, costs. Those drones, Shahid drones, $35,000 Shahid drones, hit Amazon data centers, Microsoft. They hit the very data which was being used to underwrite war fighting. The Americans targeted a certain bank, I think Taheb Bank in Tehran, where you had the payrolls of all the IRGC people. So from that you could get to the addresses, where they stayed, and so targeting.
Right.
Now see, this is a comprehensive change. So national security has to be understood in this dimension. And that is how things are changing. And so the Indian context, if you say what are the lessons in the Indian, they're pretty obvious. Step up our game in technology. Do you want RFP in 2 years or RFP in 5 days? You do it in 2 years, somebody else is doing it in 3 days. These are the challenges. Now, is it a big challenge? Of course it is. Because we have taken out RFP in 4 years. When we take out RFP in 2 years, we say we've done very well. But the fact is that your competitor is doing the innovation in 2 weeks. So the pace of change, the way things are moving is absolutely, you look at this conflict. You started off with nuclear weapons, highly enriched uranium, 440 kgs and capitation strikes. And as it always happens, unintended consequences. What has the crisis descended into? It is a choke point conflict. The oil hegemon Iran is challenging the military hegemon. ये तो syllabus के बाहर का question था. And look at the serious consequences. Despite the military decimation of Iran, it has been decimated badly, Navy 90%, the missiles 66%, and all that kind of stuff. There's complete control of the air. I mean, Apaches are flying with impunity. It's like Apaches flying over Noida. Impunity. Do you know, Manas, that since the war began, which is one currency which has gone up? The Iranian rial.
They just, I think, launched 10,000 riyals per note.
They are charging a certain toll tax every ship which passes.
Correct.
And I'm told already they have deposited $3 billion in Chinese banks. और अभी वहाँ 1500 शिप फंसी हुई हैं बैकलॉग. तो 1500 शिप पे ये कितने पैसे बनाएंगे, आप ये सोच लीजिए. Let me give you this piece of data. This is just amazing. So I noted it down. The US sanctions waiver, so Americans have had to give sanction waiver to Iran so that oil doesn't dry up. Prices.
It's a strange thing. We will fight.
Unintended consequences. So the US sanctions waiver to Iran will be giving Iran 10 times as much money as the Iran-Obama deal would have. Bonanza. In a supreme irony, Iran has got more sanctions relief by closing the strait than the nuclear concessions it made in the past.
So what have you achieved?
This is amazing. And in tariffs, Trump could tackle. He put tariffs and then went out. Here he can't tackle. He has got into a jam. He has to open the strait militarily. And in consequence, what is happening? Now, there are options. I'm not saying it cannot be done. And you must also note that Trump and Netanyahu are outliers in a very status quo world. They could take the risk. But the military options, as I examine them, there is a 40% chance of things going right, 60% wrong.
For US.
Yeah, and when you do that, then America gets into its famous escalation trap, which is what? You just take Iraqi freedom. Baghdad, I recall, fell in 3 weeks. Then they got into a decade-long insurgency. Now here what happens is that when your tactical actions are successful, but they don't produce strategic effects, regime change. Ayatollah to wahi hai. Mushtaba is even more hardline. He's IRGC candidate. Uranium आपके हाथ में आया नहीं है. When they don't produce strategic effects, what is the professional advice? To double down on the tactics. And as you double down on the tactics and the strategic outcomes don't come, gradually you get into a morass, a quagmire. That is an escalation trap. So this is exactly where Trump is stuck. And I'm saying that the Americans can still open the Hormuz, but it will take time. There will be costs, there will be body bags. So now the game is not about who has the bigger bomb. Now the game is who has a higher threshold for pain.
Who has more resilience.
बिल्कुल. तो इस तरह से मेरे ख्याल से ये जो है ना, this is how it has panned out. And choke point conflict. Taiwan could be in 27, 28. Do you realize that 90% of your semiconductors of the world are in Taiwan? And if the Americans are finding it to de-blockade the Iranian blockade, when the deterrence equation in the first talent chain is firmly in favor of the Chinese, look at the gigantic challenge. And what are implications for India? And already I've been making this point for very long. Let me just complete it. This is the time, over the next decade, India has to make a swivel to the seas. The next decade will be about the maritime theater. Look at this. You have a Hormuz dilemma. 3 tankers of oil every day come to you. 1 of gas. There is the Malacca challenge.
Right.
Should you stop Chinese naval power at the Malacca? Do you project power across Malacca? What about the choke point conflict in Taiwan? How will it impact you? And see, look at the problems that come out. I'm told that while we have done pretty well, in diversifying our oil sources from 26 to 41, we have expanded our strategic reserves from 55 to 65 lakh metric tons. 4 lakh Indians have been evacuated, but we have 1 crore Indians there. We have to take the issues of livelihood, their interests, and what is worse is this. India imports 5 million barrels a day. 3 million barrels come from West Asia. And the premium of the crude, West Asian and North Sea crude, is $60. We are paying $300 million per day for our oil. And with all these choke points, urea might get expensive by 50%, LPG by 50%, Prime Minister was talking about it. And while China has 120 days of reserves, we just have about 10 to 12.
So you're saying we have just 10 to 12 days of reserve?
You can have these figures checked. But what I checked was 10 to 12. Japan has 208.
So that's really worrying.
South Korea 200. No, I'm saying that while we have done a lot, these are the realities of the challenge. And when inflation and all hit you, they have the potential of swallowing your growth. We may not grow at 7%, 5%. So the point I'm saying is, one choke point conflict, or one conflict that started off over 440 kilograms of HEU and regime change, तो एकदम तब्दील हो गया. It has second,
the
third
entire
order
world.
effects,
Yeah.
global disruptions, global shocks, and India is in the midst of it. Hormuz, Malacca, first island chain, we have to make this turn to the seas. If you don't make the IOR an Indian Ocean lake, an Indian lake, you will have these extra-regional powers firing into your area. We really have to do, so we have all kinds of challenges.
Sir, I'll come to IOR part. I just want to take one small question with you before we move to the next. And these are the topics exactly what I had in my mind to discuss with you. Now, there is one that we talked about. You're talking about building capacities and, taking leadership out is definitely a military agenda during any war. But if you look at from Iran's point of view, the decapitation strategy perhaps is not yielding into the right results because maybe the way they have designed or architected their hierarchy. Now, I'm not disagreeing with what you said that we need to build capacities, but are we today as a country and as a force prepared to what, God forbid, if a similar kind of a scenario is there where we don't have a leadership, that level of architecture of the force and the resilience to continuously evolve, improvise, and keep on fighting with the biggest power of the world?
No, is that the right question? Or the right question should be, what measures are we taking to preserve our leadership? And not only that, the big lesson from the Iran conflict is what? Why did the Americans strike? Because they knew that the centrifuges and the other stuff was going to be taken so deep underground that it would be beyond the next B-2 strike. So we now have to look at going underground. Leadership, strategic infrastructure needs to go underground. You know which is the only commodity which is more valuable than oil today? Just guess. Air defense systems, Patriots, interceptors. Are they the new oil? Saudi Arabia has to make a decision, should I protect my data infrastructure or should I protect my
Oil.
missiles or energy infrastructure? Look at the AD you need. Today, you need a different infrastructure to intercept missiles. You need an entirely different infrastructure to intercept drones. Uranium, आप देखो geopolitical karma देखो. Trump told Zelensky, remember in that famous broadcast, that you don't have cards. Now he's begging Zelensky to give him those Merop interceptors which can intercept the Shahids, along with the drone hunting teams and some other ISR infra. And Zelensky has obliged. Zelensky is also a gentleman. He may not have told Trump this, but he would be privately chuckling, कि Mr. Trump, Mr. President, today I have the only cards which can save your presidency. So these are the investments you need in AD. Look at how the character of war has changed. And we spoke about the character of war in the last podcast. That was how many months back?
So that was in July.
So, एक साल में,
Just
so they
after
have
the-
changed 10 times. But the character of war is changing. You have to make tactical adjustments. You have to make strategic swivels. You have to invest. दिमाग का खेल है, पैसे का खेल है. National security is now for the best and the brightest, not the faint-hearted.
So you spoke about the Indian Ocean region, right? And our building our capabilities in that particular region because Navy becomes a very, very integral part, naval fleets and all. Now, I was going through certain reports of DIA, threat assessment, and CSI's quantum sensing report. It says that China and Russia are deploying quantum magnetometers and gravimeters. Now, Iran has midgets and mine Hormuz. Today, do we have the capability and the vision, and is it something that we are thinking about developing similar kind of a capability within our force? Because if we want to show as Indian Ocean as a region of or a sphere of influence for us, right? Do we have a capability to detect and to avoid detection by the enemy?
See, I'm not a naval man, so I don't have the deep expertise. But my strategic sense definitely tells me that we should make a turn to the seas, invest in what? Drones, autonomous systems, undersea capacities. Do we have the capacity to take care of internet cables? I'm sure something must be being done about that. But I'm just pointing out to the need to be able to protect Indian interests from Hormuz to the Malacca, definitely. That is before you. And see, people say ki bhai Taiwan doesn't matter to us. Let me ask you this. You forget the history and the legacy. The day the plan, which is a 500 ship navy, the day it clears the first island chain, in 8 years it will be in Los Angeles. And in 8 years it will also be in the IOR. So Taiwan impacts us. We may not say it, but we have an interest in keeping the plan bottled up in the first island chain. So what do we do to contribute to that? Some of it can be unstated, but I'm making a case to, turn to the seas in this large sense, examine what the options are. How do we exert influence over Strait of Malacca? What is our capacity in the Hormuz? Now that will have to be some detailed thinking. I have not done that. But we certainly need to see that. See, where is India poised? We are the 4th largest economy, soon going to be the 3rd largest economy. The Lowy Institute tells us that we are the 3rd largest or 3rd most powerful in terms of comprehensive national power. हमारे आगे कौन है? सिर्फ USA, China. ये हमें समझना चाहिए. Now we are in the big league. We have to play the big game. So, and we must not mistake our weight and influence for power. We have great weight and influence. We have to convert it into power. A ready, deployable power. अभी देखिए आप, what matters in the Gulf, what mattered in Venezuela is not AON, is not technology demonstration, not the Republic Day razzmatazz. It is the capacity in the hands of the soldier, sailor and airman. We have to convert into those capacities. No spin works. Geopolitics is extremely brutal. अभी जो है वो लड़ाई है IRGC और US के बीच में in terms of hard military capacities, not AON, not RFP. RFP से लड़ाई नहीं होती है. So we have to convert our weight and influence into what they say ready deployable power. War winning attributes.
So, I've heard you saying, and other military analysts also, that the wars that have happened, the Venezuela operation, the Middle East, is basically a messaging to China. Right? It's about saying that who's the numero uno, who's the boss. Right? What happened in Dena incident? The US Navy sinking the Iranian ship who had come to exercise for us. Is that a message to us? Because we also claim we are Vishwa Gurus. We are, as you said, the Lowy report that we are military power. We are the 4th largest economy. Is that a messaging that you see?
So you see, let's look at the larger context. I have been saying for very long that we are in the midst of Cold War 2.0 between USA and the Dragon Bear. अब देखिए क्या है. China, you remember Xi told Putin that we are in historic times. There are changes we have never seen before. Let's come together. So what was he saying? Let us come together. And the Chinese have been saying it that the West is in decline. America is in decline. Who has noted this? Trump and the MAGA camp. So when they came to power, they said, yes, maybe we were in decline, but we will take care of all of that and show you that we are resurging. So Venezuela was the first signaling. You see, you read the national security strategy. My interpretation of that strategy is this, that they are saying that the Western Hemisphere will be a firm base. So we'll kick out all external actors. Maduro, especially because he was getting Iranian influence in, getting Russian influence in, and he committed 2 cardinal errors. I believe he was in talks with Moscow to get missiles which would target the American mainland.
Cuban Missile Crisis, similar to that.
Yes, and secondly, he was talking of trading his oil in yuan, non-dollar currency. By the way, Iran क्या कर रहा है? Iran अभी yuan में ही कर रहा है.
Correct.
So it is all these issues which came together and they said, out with you. They've already squeezed Cuba. Cuba is in a pretty bad state.
No power.
So Western Hemisphere मेरा है. Nobody will come. Should India also talk of hemispheric influence? I merely ask the question. Look what China is doing in its neighborhood. What great powers do. Then what the Americans did, they said, अच्छा Russia, यूरोप के हवाले, आप इसको संभालिए, अपना डिफेंस बजट बढ़ाइए 5%. ये नहीं होगा कि मौज मस्ती आप करें and we pay for your defense.
It's clear business mind.
Right or wrong, yeah. In the Middle East, they thought that they will do one odd suppressive strike. Iran is not much of an actor. And kind of subdue it and let Israel and the Abraham Accords bring the Gulf countries and Israel together as protectors of American interests in the West Asia. अब ये जो हुआ है, how it pans out is left to be seen.
It's a complex thing.
But they were pivoting to the Western Pacific so as to take care of the Chinese. अब देखिए जब ये उलझ जाते हैं तो क्या हुआ, अब ईरान में विडंबना ये है, okay, that is one part of it. Now look at the other issue. Why do I say Cold War 2.0? Look at what weaknesses do. So when the Americans pulled out of Afghanistan, who noted this weakness? Putin. Putin ने कहा ये वेस्ट जो है ना ढीला हो रहा है. So Ukraine. जब यूक्रेन में यूरोप and USA did not present a very wholesome front, all kinds of bickering. Israel mein Netanyahu was having problems with his opposition, the judiciary. Iran ने देखा ये कमज़ोर पड़ रहा है. उन्होंने किया 7th October 2023. So weaknesses encourage this issue. So one is the geopolitical design and second is weakness. आज, when America is taking out marine expeditionary units from the Pacific, when it is diluting the THAAD infra from Japan and South Korea, who's noticing? China. Will China sense this weakness and do Taiwan? Maybe, maybe not. Not because there are other problems. Xi has discovered that he has spent so much on the military, but those damn 100 generals are all corrupt.
Rocket force.
Rocket force, सारे. So ये सबकी dilemmas हैं. What is the Indian lesson? The Indian lesson is, now that you are in the big league, you have time. There are no direct threats with you. ये time है reform करने का. When did the Chinese close the strategic military lag with the Americans? When the Americans had put their hand in the beehive of Iraq and Afghanistan. This is our opportunity to act, to transform. Whether we become Vishwa Bandhu, how we navigate Amrit Kal will depend on how we play this game between USA and the Dragon Bear, how we navigate the Cold War by protecting our interests. So it is a challenge for us. If we navigate it well, we could be Vishwa Bandhu. If we don't navigate it well, we may not be Vishwa Bandhu.
But so, we don't seem to be learning from our and improving really remarkably the way we need to, because if you look at, just look at the recent example of the Rafale deal that has happened. 2012, that is when Rafale was T1, L1. 12 billion ki deal thi tab. Today it is around 36 billion. Exactly the point that you were making, the cost has gone up, right? And now the question is also that in this due course of time, are such expensive fighters relevant? If we learn the lessons from Ukraine war and what we are seeing happening in Middle East also, you have 17 jets which have gone down of US, right? Look at the price asymmetry. So it doesn't seem that we are moving very fast. And the threat is only looming. China has capacities which you spoke in the last podcast also. They are talking about 1,000 jets a year. They're talking about 6th generation now. Forget about 5th generation. And we are not even able to develop one engine.
So who has told us that we should not make the change? Who has told us that India cannot do the change? What was DPI? Look at the infrastructure. So change can be done. Indians can do the change. We have to take note of the change. You're absolutely right. The taxonomy of air dominance is moving from piloted platforms to unmanned systems and to startups. Startups, not traditional primes. Right. This is not a reflection on the Air Force. This is how warfare has changed. Should we take note? And let me tell you, I've had conversations with Air Chief Marshal Vivek Chaudhary. He agrees. Even the present chief, I had a conversation in Ramsambad. All he was saying is that Piloted air power is not done and dusted. Who's saying that? I'm not saying that. We are saying the right combination of piloted air power and unmanned systems. And look how the game is moving. You know a guy called, have you heard of a guy called Palmer Luckey? The boss of Endurance?
Yep.
He started off making VR headsets for fun.
Correct.
Today that YX-44 Fury, AI-enabled combat aircraft, unmanned, he has produced the first prototype for test in 568 days. Should AMCA take 10 years? Will AMCA take 10 years? If your advertisements for that, you are going to pay your interns 80,000 or something, will those be able to make AMCA? Now, who's telling us not to change our game in this? We have to identify a startup. Now, we are 10 years into IDEX and say, here you are, $100 billion, make Fury. So, AMCA and Fury. क्यों नहीं हो सकता? कोशिश तो कर सकते हैं.
What is stopping, sir? Which is the biggest problem plaguing the Indian growth? And you know, let me say it very blatantly. Is it the activism? Is it the bureaucracy? Or is it maybe later on some other executive or, you know, parliament which is not taking the decision? Because if, as a former army commander, you realize the importance, as somebody who's so well read, होता क्यों नहीं है ये? रुकती कहाँ पे बात?
होता भी है और नहीं भी होता है. यही मैं कह सकता हूँ, हो रहा है, उसमें तेजी लानी है. तो क्यों नहीं हो रहा है? Like when I was Army Commander RTRAC, the year I left, we had spent some 165 crores on all these kind of projects. Many of them, you see, orders have been given to some of these space startups. ऐसा नहीं कि बिल्कुल नहीं हो रहा है, but it has to be done faster. I'll give you one example. Why can't we churn out Shahid type drones, 1 lakh of them, 33,000 crores by next year? The answer will be कि सर पहले RFP बनानी है, वो 4 साल में बनेगी या 2 साल में बनेगी. Why can't somebody sit down and make that RFP in 8 days? Why can't we say this startup, national champion? Not L1 and all kinds. It can be done. It can be done next 20 days. Tell me, I'll do it. I'll make it. So यहाँ पे ये बातें अटक रही.
तो रुकता कौन से? So which department or which function? How does it happen? Because
it happens in that gentleman, whoever is there, he doesn't understand it. He doesn't believe in it. So for those kind of reasons, like the one very convenient punching bag had become the politician. Political will. Is that right? Today, if the senior civil, military, technological, administrative leadership cannot make these changes, who's to blame? They are to blame. And there are consequences of not reforming. All those chaps who decide not to reform, what's happening to HAL? You have suffered the ignominy that in a bid for the fighter program, you're not in it. Aapka ye hashra hoga if you don't reform. So let me turn the question on your head. What is the great logic of not reforming? When you are paying such consequences, this is the thing people should be asked. Are there advantages in reforming? There are. So should you reform? You must. Do you have the brains? Yes. Just discard the lethargy.
is it? The way I look at it, sir, is I think it's an absolute assurance of a government job. The perks
Exactly. So
that you just don't want to move in.
So see, look at this point. Aviation needs a time frame of 10 years, 15 years. That's how far you should look. The HAL chairman is appointed at 58. He retires at 60. What will he do? What will he plan? Why can't we change this rule? There was a time when air chiefs, chiefs of air staff, Air Marshal Katre, Chief Marshal Katre, Chief Marshal Lal, had come from HAL. They were chairman MND HAL and then came here. There will be closer coordination between the user and the maker. HAL has made it its own silo. Today, the main problem is silos. Silos which have expanded into empires. And to get out of this silo philosophy, empire philosophy, it just needs a change of heart and a leap of faith.
So you spoke about an important point, and जहाँ पे आपने you spoke about natural language carrying and all. Now, one of the most visible military AI fallout that happened was in the US between Anthropic and Department of Defense. They said that we want to use the technology in a certain way. Anthropic said, sorry, we can't do that. They said, nothing doing national security, this is what it is, right? Now, yes, on one side, the technology is very, very important to make quick decisions. Are we looking at scenarios and are we prepared as a force where the soldier just gives the command and doesn't ensure the delivery and accountability, and that is left to technology? Because there are ethical boundaries and questions around that. Are we prepared and ready to execute, even if we build the capability from that sense?
So see, what example you gave is a good example. So Anthropic expressed these reservations. The Pentagon said you're a supply chain risk, but immediately who has come in? Sam Altman, Elon Musk. So they are continuing to get their AI, even as Anthropic has a right to protest. This is exactly what should happen. But see how I look at the AI game. How is it going to pan out? Today, you are somebody who says you will keep the human in the loop. I say no, I will not keep the human in the loop, because when I keep the human in the loop, my OODA cycle is slower than yours.
Correct.
My decision making is slower than yours. My targeting is slower than yours. So while I will ensure safety, I will lose the war. Now, this is how the questions are becoming. So a time may come where you will say that bang the safety, I must win the war. So the only place where the human ultimately will remain in the loop is in the nuclear domain, where the risks are far too grave. In most other areas, AI will come in. Look at Epic Fury and Absolute Resolve. It's all been done on AI. There's been one targeting error, that MENAB school, and that is still not sure whether it was a targeting error or it was something else. Or was it an AI-induced?
155 girls lost their lives.
AI-induced. So AI is doing wonderfully. What is the evidence to suggest that AI is not so accurate? In fact, with AI, collateral damage is reduced. It has become so precise. So the point of AI is that it's a fabulous technology. You might as well embrace it, but cross the river by feeling the stones. But the real point is not that. You look at the outlook to AI or to startups. If you're a startup in China, I wonder if I made this point on your show, and you are making water bottles. PLA will come and give you order for water bottles. You wonder why? They have identified your talent. Then they will say, ये water bottle के साथ एक military sensor बनाओ. जब आप military sensor बना देंगे, they will hold your hand till commercial viability. Once you start playing the market and they find that you are particularly bright, they will say, सब छोड़ दो, मेरे साथ आओ, and we will take care of that American startup lurking on the horizon. हमने कौन सा मॉडल चुना है? हम कहते हैं आप बहुत बढ़िया हो, बट आप L1 में आओ.
और वही बढ़िया चीज़ दो.
तो बताइए किसमें विवेक है, दानिशमंदी किसमें? So if we adopt these, what they call processes designed for a monopsony market, you will get the same results. The market has changed. It's an innovation market. Look at the civil. Xiaomi started making mobiles, but the digital expertise was so deep that today Xiaomi makes cars. And Xiaomi is also doing robotics. What kind of robotics? To make cruise missiles for surge capacities. अच्छा, आप यहाँ साइलो करते रहो कि नहीं सिविल मिलिट्री, तो आप मिसाइल बनाएंगे, वो बॉटल बनाएंगे. So my question I ask is that process is important, but since when have democracies got dumbed down? Are autocracies going to do better than us? Are open society, India, open society, closed minds. Closed society, open minds.
It's going back to, somebody famously said, a communist China is more capitalist than a...
Bilkul. So we have to the problem is not in democracy. It is not in transparency. It is not in safety. It is following the complete thing through in common sense. So somebody said, what is wisdom? As you grow, there is information, there is knowledge, and there is wisdom. Wisdom is nothing but common sense in uncommon measure. Or what have our processes done? Kicked out common sense. So gradually kick out wisdom and say it's a great process. It cannot be. We have to revisit all this. There's nothing wrong with process, but process so bereft of common sense that it makes no. So this is where we need to get our act together. You know, somebody was telling me on a lighter note, and there's some truth in it, that a particular uniform bureaucrat, you know, he was given a product. तो उसने कहा ये 10 GB का product है. So this chap is telling him, well intentioned, कि यार ऐसा करो ये 10 GB को 2 GB कर दो, मेरा tender नहीं बैठ रहा है.
Wow.
So what is important, the GB or the tender? In our system it is the tender. तो या तो tender बैठा लो या GB का. In olden times, discretion would have been encouraged. He would have written on the file that the product is 10 GB. It is coming to us at the same cost or lesser cost. We should get the 10 GB product. But what will the advice be given today? यार ये झंझट में मत को 2 GB कर दो, निकलने दो. We think it is smart, it is foolish. The Chinese are not doing it. Ukrainians are not doing it. Now even the Americans are not doing it. अब इसमें आप बोलोगे, what is the big change? Certainly there is nothing. अब क्यों नहीं करते हैं? हमने ये प्रवृत्ति बना दी है कि नहीं करेंगे.
इंटेंट इशू है सर.
इंटेंट नहीं. यू बीन द सिस्टम, यू नो व्हाट इट इज कि यार ये गेम खेलो तो खेलते रहो. सो अल्टीमेटली सी दिस इज व्हाई आई एम सेइंग द मेट्रिक शुड नॉट बी AON और ये वो चीज़. हैज़ इट रीच्ड हवलदार राम सिंह इन 19 ग्रेनेडियर्स इन 28 div और सेलर सो एंड सो in the Eastern Naval Command. आप कुछ करो, AON, SHON, सब करते रहो यहाँ पे, वो मामला वहाँ पहुँचा कि नहीं.
डिलीवरी एंड मैन को एम्पावरमेंट मिला कि नहीं.
Because process has become the convenient excuse not to do. And these are the changes we need.
So sir, while embracing technology, do you think the need of the hour is that human in command, but not in the final control or the outcome of the lethal action? It's fine to accept that?
I'm saying whether human or AI, ये टारगेट है ना, इस पे क्या असर पड़ता है. अगर AI और ह्यूमन से, AI और ह्यूमन, अगर AI से, मैं टारगेट बर्बाद करने के लिए हूँ.
मुझे जंग जीतनी है.
जंग जीतनी है. ये बाकी की डिबेट्स आर अ मीन्स टू अचीव दैट एंड. दे हैव बिकम द एंड. एंड गुड टू टॉक इन फ्लैशी सेमिनार. नॉट सेफ्टी. Of course safety. But safety at what cost? And there are no evidence to prove that. You see these two conflicts. The delivery has been near perfect with one odd. क्या पहले नहीं होते थे ऐसे स्कूल पे टैक्स वगैरह? So that is.
Friendly fires happened in 2003 also, before that also.
In fact, ज़्यादा होते थे when you were not precise. Today you have become precise.
So one technology that I see is, I'm not sure where are we as a country, but if you see, US has used high energy lasers and high powered microwave systems to defeat the Iranian drones in the current war. Now, this is to compensate for the cost asymmetry that they have. Now, thanks to some social media clips and here and there's some project that I thought is their Project Kali, but I'm not sure if we are even thinking as a country on these lines.
We have got some systems, but actually the problem with those systems. The problem is we have not reached the iron beam level of technological progress. Iron beam is bringing interception cost to zero.
Absolutely.
It is the way forward, there is no doubt. But, and the other issue is that there are some problems in weather and all that. So they don't function in cloudy weather, high altitude. Now, those problems have to be grappled with. Yeah, but certainly that is a direction. Microwave, high energy lasers is the only way you're going to get cost of interception down. It is certainly not going to be THAADs and Patriots in the future.
So interesting point. If we go back to Operation Sindoor, again, Pakistan overwhelmed us. Our AD did a fantastic job. But again, the cost asymmetry, drone versus S-400s or L-20 guns that we are talking about. And we see the recent movements also. It's about making the war more expensive for your opponent. And who gives it away first, right? So, in that sense, is there no urgency that we have shown or have we shown on these kind of HPM kind of systems? Because it is just missing. I mean, we did not hear it even as latest as Operation Sindoor.
So we should show far greater urgency in these three domains.
What are those three domains you mentioned?
So let's say Sudarshan Chakra, what the Prime Minister is saying. I see 4 components in the Sudarshan Chakra, or 3 to 4 components. One is the replicate the AI-enabled dronery frontiers in Ukraine along the LAC and LC, that digital killing web. See, what it has done? Today, Ukraine is buying 8 million drones more than the artillery they fired last year. Because with those drones, you have pushed back the artillery guns to 70 kilometers. They are outranged.
Right.
Tanks don't move. Infantry casualties are 30,000 a month. और हमें क्या evidence चाहिए? तो उसको आप लेके replicate कर दें. Digital killing webs. You can do it with the AI-enabled command and control system and with drones. Ukrainians की IQ हमसे ज़्यादा है क्या? There is no evidence to suggest that. So give this project to a Western Army commander, Eastern Army commander and say, do it. Here is your money. क्यों नहीं होगा? It will not be perfect, but something will happen.
Right.
Then while Sindoor was good, we must not rest on our laurels.
True.
This S-400 Akash Tir has to be upgraded.
To S-500.
Either S-500 or those counter-drone systems. Ukraine ke paas hai Merops, cheap ones. That, a combination. Unless you have space presence, you are not going to be in the interception game. Today, in absolute resolve, cyber was used to create an assault window. Electronic attack, फिर बत्ती गुल कर दी, and the helicopter assault was timed. Do we have these capacities? तो इन चीज़ों में इन्वेस्ट करना पड़ता है और कैपेसिटीज निकलेंगी. So long range discrimination radars. With all that, your AD needs to be upgraded far greatly. Now, along with these drone enabled frontiers, AD have a drone missile force to complement your piloted platforms. And the last thing is that algorithmic warfare has arrived. Algorithmic warfare is what? It has 3 pillars in my understanding. 1 is abundance, 2 is autonomy, and 3 is AI dominance. Everything that you do in the drone-enabled frontiers, in AD, has to have these facets. AI. Abundance क्या है? Today it is far wiser to invest in cheap, iterable, low-cost, swarmable systems than fancy MQ-9 Reapers. The Americans have lost 12 of them. Abundance. Autonomy, I've told you. The YX Fury.
Right.
In all domains, autonomy is the future. और कौन कर रहा है ये बिजनेस, ये डिलीवरी? ये स्टार्टअप्स कर रहे हैं, नॉट बोइंग, नॉट लॉकहीड. इट हैज टू बी सेड लाउडली. बिकॉज देयर इज अ रीजन. बोइंग, लॉकहीड्स आल्सो हैव बिकम लाइक गवर्नमेंटल ब्यूरोक्रेसीज. स्टार्टअप से रह जाएगी. स्टार्टअप को कोई रजिस्टर नहीं भरना पड़ता, कोई फॉर्म नहीं भरना पड़ता, जो करना चाहता है कर लेता है. इट ऑल्सो इनकरेजेस इनोवेशन, इट रिस्पेक्ट्स टैलेंट. तो ये सब चीज़ें जो हैं, इफ़ यू हैव दीज 4-5 थिंग्स टुगेदर and you invest in it for 5 to 6 years, you will have your Sudarshan Chakra.
So I'm an absolute advocate
तो
for...
मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि ये जो लोग कहते हैं नहीं हो सकता, ये 5-6 चीज़ें भी नहीं हो सकती आपसे. सिंपल है. और वो दिन कब आएगा मानस, when I and you are not talking कि भाई चीन ने ये कर दिया, USA ने कर दिया, यूक्रेन ने कर दिया, अब हम कर रहे हैं. Somebody in London should be doing a podcast that India has done it. Why can't UK do it? Somebody in Silicon Valley should be doing a podcast कि यार इंडियंस ने क्या कमाल कर दिया. Why can't we do it? वो दिन कब आएगा?
Sir, I was coming to that, and though I'm in agreement with what you said, but मुझे एक बात समझ में नहीं आती सर. इंडियंस ने कमाल कर दिया, हमने स्पेस साइंस में कमाल किया, राइट? मार्स पे पहुंच गए, चांद पे पहुंच गए, बट हमसे एक जेट इंजन क्यों नहीं बनता? बिकॉज नाउ अगेन हियर व्हाई आई एम सेइंग आई एम फुली सपोर्टिव ऑफ द स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम, लेकिन वहाँ पे भी सरकारी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, यहाँ पे भी सरकारी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. व्हाई वन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन डज वंडर्स इन द ऑन द ग्लोबल स्टेज एंड द अदर इज एब्सोल्युटली, I mean, they have not been allowed to participate in a domestic tender now.
So there are 2 facets to it. The first honest question we should ask is that space may we have done very well, but what kind of space? Exploration, Shubhangu Shukla, that we have done well. We have not done well in LEO. We have not done well in commercial space, military space, certainly
Correct.
not We
Correct.
don't even have persistent surveillance. पहले तो ये सच बोलो,
Navic भी हमारे
पहले तो ये सच बोलो. दूसरा, इसरो के पीछे भागना बंद करो. इसरो का काम ही नहीं है ये. हम इसरो करते रहते हैं. This will be done by the space agency commander, upgraded with the backing of the CDS and 5 startups. Who's the partner of Elon Musk, of US Spacecom? Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
They don't run after NASA. हम क्यों भागते रहते हैं इसरो पे? उनका काम ही नहीं है भाई. तो क्लैरिटी. उम्र भर गालिब वही भूल करता गया, दाग चेहरे पे था, आईना साफ करता गया. So first is clarity. If I'm wrong, let somebody tell me I'm wrong. And so this is where it starts off from. And the second issue is that it doesn't matter whether you are state or private sector. Look at our private sector. USA spends $975 billion on R&D. Private sector $700 billion. What does our private sector spend? They're all looking at quarterly profit. This is not the private sector we need, with a few exceptions, honorable exceptions. The ammunition factory that Adani has created for the industrial revolution technologies, R&D clusters, small arms, missiles, munitions together. Why couldn't the ordnance factories do it? They couldn't do it, and now look what's happened to them in their corporatization. हम बहाने बंद करें अपने. Adani is now doing a deal with Leonardo in Rotterdam.
Yes, sir. Erstwhile,
Should have been done 15 years back. HAL should be the first person to welcome it because competition smartens up HAL. But उस टाइम क्या wisdom थी कि नहीं HAL ही करेगा, हम किसी को आने नहीं देंगे, veto powers थे. So hindsight में all these, it is this thought. You will not change unless you have comprehensive changes in ideation, action and narration, all three. Unless you ideate on these, you today go to these podcasts, look at the number of podcasts on a variety of issues around the conflict and see the same quality of podcasts in India. दूध का दूध पानी का पानी हो जाएगा. Look at the issues being debated. There are programs on AD, there are programs on space, there are programs on missilery, there are programs on chokepoints. इंडिया में इतना इत्मीनान है कि कुछ करने की ज़रूरत ही नहीं. So this is the strongest critique I can give. If you make these changes, कोई मुश्किल नहीं है और चेंज करने में भी कोई मुश्किल नहीं है. जो मैं आपको बातें गिना रहा हूँ, बताइए उसमें क्या मुश्किल है.
सर सवाल तो मेरे पास भी यही था, बट ऑन द पॉडकास्ट फ्रंट ऑन अ लाइटर नोट, इफ इट्स फीडबैक आई टेक दैट. सो सर आपने ये बात की लियोनार्डो वाली बात, जो erstwhile ऑगस्टा वेस्टलैंड एंड फिर मैकेंजी थी. नाउ हियर्स अ क्वेश्चन दैट आई वांट टू आस्क यू. दैट कंपनी वाज ब्लैकलिस्टेड बिकॉज ऑफ certain violations, right? Is it a high time that we should ignore and overlook corruption, or we should not make it a stumbling block to get the best technology?
Certainly. Corruption became a driver to stall procurement processes. And corruption was not the issue really. What you went and did was that you created a monopoly market. So one buyer, one seller. Air Force, HAL, no competition. क्या होगा? Both organizations will perish. What stimulates excellence? Competition. हमने कह दिया HAL करेगा. HAL क्यों करेगा? HAL करप्शन नहीं कर सकता, बाकी सब करेंगे.
वो दूध के दूल्हे.
मान लिए हैवी, it needs competition.
Correct.
Can you play cricket without competing? It's common sense. So I keep telling you that all this has kicked common sense out. And today innovation is just challenging monopoly markets. तो इतना वही करप्शन से कि RFP 3 साल में निकले, 6 साल में निकालो RFP. मेक श्योर कि बिल्कुल ही चांस ना हो करप्शन का, बट वो प्रोडक्ट तो नहीं निकलेगा.
Sir, it goes back to the Defense Minister A.K. Antony's time. कि क्या कहते हैं, decision paralysis was there. कि just to be spotlessly clean, I will not even take a decision.
Yeah, so we've gone through eras under Rajiv Gandhi, General Sundarji. I think one of the few times when we spent more than 3% of our GDP on defense. And look at the things which happened those days: mechanization, brass tacks, army aviation,
The Mirage, the MiG-29.
nuclear. India was
You think that was the best time so that we really
I
spent?
think so. Historically, I would say three times. One is after 62 because of what happened in 62.
Because we got a
so
bloody
recovery
nose.
till 65 was dramatic.
Yeah.
I think the Rajiv Gandhi phase, and also when this government came in, I keep saying we launched some of the boldest, most comprehensive changes in national security since independence. CDS, DMA. It was game changing. Atmanirbharta and defense. Defense coming out of the shadows of foreign policy, new normals in our strategic outlook. But what has happened is that over the last 2 decades, the game in national security has changed so much that with the lag, if we have to reduce the lag, we have to act faster.
But so look at this way. I mean, when we are still at a defense budget percentage of GDP, it's almost close to 62 levels. So you're right कि बहुत जल्दी market has played. There's a rapid expansion over there, and we are still trying to catch up. I beg to differ out here, so that we have done remarkably well in last so many years in terms of prioritizing defense, because you see the defense budgets. There's also resentment with respect to the Agniveer scheme. Of course, it's somewhere impacting the quality of the troops or the motivation of the troops. The Gurkhas are not with us. So, is defense really a priority? Though it should be a priority, but is defense really a priority?
So, which government ever appointed a CDS?
I have my view to it, sir. I have a counter question to that. What is the requirement of a CDS, sir?
So the point was that there was a requirement of a CDS because you said that the responsibility of defense is not merely with the defense secretary, it is with the uniformed officer.
True.
It was a major change.
True.
उससे पहले आप बात करो, Admiral Arun Prakash will tell you that when he went to Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, the defense minister, he was told, very good, Admiral, but please come through the defense secretary.
Wow.
That has changed.
That is to the naval chief, who was his chief of staff that time.
That has changed. Then he gave you a DMA. What was the DMA? Which said that, okay, whatever you decide, you execute. You're a secretary in the government. तो पहले क्या argument था? I've seen those years. You can decide everything, but you have no powers. It will have to come to a secretary. So we have to understand these changes.
Who has not seen the forces, sir?
Different matter. See, DefSec also has a role. I'm not saying that. But you were empowered. So let's first get that right. 2, you study it in detail. It was even more powerful than Barry Goldwater Nichols. 3, you are right. This is now we have to answer. With 2 CDSs, what have we delivered?
It's been 5 years plus, sir.
Absolutely. So the third question is right. First 2 are not right. It was a major civil. Atmanirbharta and defense. Private sector was taboo. If I was seen as a colonel with the private sector man, it would be a career-ending move. Hotel में भी मैं दिख जाता तो career ending. Today all your colonels are meeting all private sector startups. There are meetings happening in army headquarters. We should not underestimate this. Defense coming out of the shadows of foreign policy. Increasingly, your generals are talking about defense. General Pandey wrote a book. I wrote a book. पहले बता दो आप. You're not even allowed. It was a foreign policy preserve. So major changes. 4, new normals in your strategic outlook. When in the past have you hit Raiwind? When in the past have you hit Noor Khan base? When in the past did you do Balakot? We must acknowledge what has happened. And yet I am the first to say that despite this, we have to complete the national security makeover because of all the issues that I am pointing out to you. But we must be fair. So I am acknowledging the Rajiv Gandhi phase, I am acknowledging post-62. उससे पहले General K.V. Krishna Rao committee, a very forward-looking chief. I have seen those phases. General Sundarji. So they have good things have happened. General Thorat. Are study Sagat. You won't see such a brilliant mind.
Undefeated soldier.
Yes, so good things have happened, but the point is that the national security, I keep saying national security is a H1 game. Highest common factor. L1 नहीं चलेगा इसमें, बीमारी है L1. You need the best and the brightest, the greatest clarity. And you have to play the game in all domains, ideation, action, narration. So Sindoor was an overwhelming military victory, perhaps undermined at the altar of poor strategic communications. सब कुछ चाहिए. Understand that. Look at military diplomacy. I was in Washington the week Asim Munir was in Washington. What amazed me was not only that he was being lunched by Trump, he was the toast of every think tank. Why? Because of his relationship with Kuruvilla in CENTCOM.
Yeah.
We have barely any presence in CENTCOM, IPCOM. What is the size of our economy? 10 times. Pakistan's GDP is less than the market cap of the Bombay Stock Exchange. We should have combat overmatched with Pakistan. We should have invested far greater in military diplomacy. If we had done so, who opened the doors of Washington to Shehbaz Sharif? Asim Munir. Abhi, you have to acknowledge that call which was made to Trump was made by Asim Munir on Sunday, even in epic fury. So if you invest in military diplomacy, there will be. So I am pointing out to you the many achievements and the many lags.
So here's a question, and a final question as far as...
Agniveer, white duck Agniveer.
Yeah.
In my view, Agniveer is a great scheme. I go to my unit, they tell me, bahut achhe. The chief minister cannot select his DMs. Here the CEO is being told 100 people coming, select your 50. So now the point was what? Exit. If I'm not wrong, MHA has recently announced some 30-40% reservation. So these people who are leaving, the armed forces must ensure that at least 70 to 80% get absorbed here. And you tell me 15 Agniveers land up in Pune, people who have been trained for 5 months, will private sector not pick them up? Wave will not take Agniveers. Disciplined people, trained people.
So it is not about the employability of the Agniveers. My question out here to you is, do you think a soldier, who knows that his term is going to be only 5 years, will be as motivated and trained only for 6 months and not 3+1 bare minimum, right? Do you think
he is being trained for 5 years?
But
in a battalion after that basic training.
Absolutely.
So let's go to that first part. I was Army Commander Art Track. Under me, this study was done. You call General Sandhu from the Armored Corps, he was my Chief of Staff. Absolute independent study, and I still recall that when he spoke, he told me, sir, it is a wonderful scheme. I asked him why. Now, some figures I may not recall, but he said, Israeli army trains for 23 weeks, US army trains for this. We were only army training for 3 years. We were getting trained drivers and training them for 3 years. So we said, all right, reduce the training period, and all that you save in training, introduce in technology, AR, VR and all that. So that about your training argument.
Mm-hmm.
I've told you about selection within and exit. अच्छा, अभी आप एक और आर्ग्यूमेंट बोलोगे कि वो जो 50% है उसको पेंशन क्या? अरे अगर वो 40% घुस चला गया MHA वगैरह में, उसको वैसे ही पेंशन मिलेगी. What is the scheme in most places abroad? That people who leave the armed forces, join the paramilitary and all that, that is exactly what's happening. उससे क्या हो रहा है? You're also getting disciplined people into the larger civil administration. So it is a win-win scheme. अच्छा, अगर कुछ खामियां हैं, which lot of people say नहीं है, they can be addressed. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. उससे क्या होगा? फिर कोई चीज़ नहीं होगी. थिएटर कमांड में भी 4 ऐब होंगे, तुझे वो भी नहीं होगा. फिर DRDO भी रिफॉर्म नहीं करेगा, कोई नहीं करेगा.
So in your opinion,
I'm saying, look at it, and see there are a lot of good people who are against it. उनसे बात कर लो क्या है. Let's get to the nitty-gritty of it. But I am giving you many advantages. I meet my CEOs, same CEOs, they're very happy with Agniveer.
The best person to clarify on the Agniveer.
No, I'm not the best person. There are others also, and they may have views. Pension is the advantage, but what is the long term? 2 lakh pay and pension. The others who get 8 crores and no pension. So it is what you settle for.
All right, sir. So one final question as far as the theatre commands is concerned and the CDS post creation was concerned. And I was having this discussion with the with the commander in military only, former commander, right? Now here's the argument that as a defense force, do you need theatre commands? Because theatre commands are typically for an offensive force where you need to do operations outside your domain or outside your area of protection. Especially when the squadron strengths of Indian Air Force, because assets have to be shared in an integrated theatre command. Correct me if I'm wrong, sir. Already 42 से 29 squadrons है हमारे पास. जहाज पूरे बैठ नहीं रहे हैं. अब उनको अगर हम distribute कर देंगे, according to theatre commands, are we not doing something for which we are not ready right now.
So how many squadrons we have now?
29, sir.
So there's a shortfall of squadrons.
Absolutely, sir.
How many CNCs? Reduce them. Till we have squadrons, why do you have so many CNCs? So, the argument. अच्छा, दूसरा argument. No, I'm all for debate.
Sir is holding a turf.
We'll come to that. So, when you are saying that civil from PSUs to startups, is it related to the kind of country you are? So, because you are expeditionary, Elon Musk will work. A startup will not work in India because we have a different defense architecture. It is a culture of doing work. Jointmanship, integration is the modern way of war fighting. It has got nothing to do with this number of squadrons. Okay. The larger issue is what? Where are we? We have got a CDS. The Americans had a permanent chairman in 1949. That is where we are. Now see how they evolved and see if you wish to evolve. Despite 1949, in the first hostage crisis, 1980s, they were silos. कि भाई नेवी अलग, ये अलग, 6 महीने एक्साइज की. और क्या डिबेट्स थी उस टाइम? कि भाई जब हेलीकॉप्टर शिप से शोर जाएगा तो कौन का कैप्टन होगा? नेवल वाला बिकॉज इट टुक ऑफ फ्रॉम अ नेवल प्लेटफॉर्म और दी लैंड चैप बिकॉज इट लैंडेड देयर. ये जो पहला सवाल है आपका ना, इसी श्रेणी में है ये. एंड सो दे ऑल क्रैश्ड टिल समबडी ब्रोक रैंक्स and said the system is broken, fix it. Barry Goldwater Nichols, and you went joint. You read a book called Every Man a Tiger, Chuck Honor, not an army general, Air Force general. This is very important. Who will tell you how the joint military benefited from theater commands in the use of air power. Air power was optimized. And of course, they matured Gulf War I, Gulf War II. Gulf War I में क्या हुआ? They discovered network centricity. अच्छा, आपके theater command नहीं है. Have you integrated your data streams? Have you got digital theaters? If you have structural problems, have you integrated your digital theaters? Without the former, the latter will not happen. You take it from me. ये एक तहजीब है, एक सोचने का ढंग है. Then you go to Gulf War II, where now there is such integration, no questions. A Bradley commander calls for the fire of an F-16 directly. At least when I left the army, you have to go through 10 conferences and 6 people to get that kind of, delivery on target. The Barry Goldwater Nichols was extremely popular with the soldiers, sailors, airmen in the field. It was extremely unpopular with the admirals, generals, because they lost turf. Now this is exactly the question before us. Are we statesmen or are we going to preserve our silos? What do we owe to our soldiers, sailors and airmen? That is the point. And now look, if you go beyond that, not that things have not gone wrong. Look at absolute resolve. It is beyond the services. Now it is agencies, CIA, stealth drone, Anthropic, Claude, Maven, सबका मिश्रण. And if you take it to a higher level, Epic Fury. Epic Fury में, tell me, कोई सवाल पूछता है, which services Dan came from? You will not tell me because it's a joint military. Which services Brad Cooper from? It's a joint military. Correct. In the 2 most extensive land campaigns, Iraq and Afghanistan, the chairman, Joint Chiefs was Admiral Mike Mullen, or in large portions of it. Did anyone ask a question? Once you grow there, you will stop asking these questions. They are all joint war fighters. They have done tenures in army divisions, a naval officer would have done in an army division and all that. You have a joint perspective. So ये पूरा मामला ये है. So a day before the liberalization, 1991, there were all kinds of articles in various newspapers of how liberalization would destroy us. Would you have had this mobile without liberalization? Would you have had this mall without liberalization? So theater commands are going to be like that liberalization moment in national security. आप वो आम बनाइए तो उसका स्वाद आप चखेंगे.
So let me ask a question.
I'm making these arguments because I'm a great advocate of it. And there may be other views, but I am 400% for it.
So, sir, let me have the courage of asking another question to it, which could be sounding countering. Now, there is always this statement that US being a superpower, they've not won a single war decisively, right? Now, that's a theater command. The dots may not connect, but I'm still asking you that.
Of course.
Whereas we are in silos, we have won, we have had decisive.
Hold on. Which military, ask yourself,
Yes, sir.
which military can assemble this kind of power 2 oceans away?
None. We have to give it
Be
to them.
fair to them.
Absolutely. I agree that.
Baghdad, they captured in 3 weeks. It is in the land wars that they went wrong. The कौन सा argument है? We should say that we will create all these capacities. We will have capacities to extract Hafiz Saeed. We will have capacities to decapitate people. We will expand political options by becoming joint. Are we expeditionary today? Certainly not. But do we need to project power beyond Malacca? Do we, at some time, should we be in a position to influence Hormuz? At some point.
And it's existential for us.
This is not the way we do things. So I'll give you an argument. 8 years back in the MO Directorate, a great discussion took place of whether we should have armed drones or not. Now, the wisdom of the times was no. The matter was taken to the NSA and he said, India does not do these kind of things.
What kind of things? Drones?
Armed drones.
What is so kind of about it, sir?
Exactly the question today. India doesn't believe in lethal drones, only ISR. So we took that decision.
Sir, it's
but
like
I'm still not blaming anyone. I'm just saying that you grow and you mature. But sometimes you pay the cost for these kind of decisions. So not creating theatre commands will be this kind of decision. You have to evolve. And therefore I go back to Agniveer. अगर अग्निवीर नहीं होगा थिएटर कमांड भी नहीं होगा, DRDO भी रिफॉर्म नहीं करेगा, क्योंकि कोई सज्जन एक आर्ग्यूमेंट लेके आ जाएगा. No change is perfect. No change is without. See, either you are a change man or you are not a change man. Either you are a hockey player or you are a football player.
All right, sir. As far as
And
this,
let me say that I have great respect for the other point of view also. But put it on the table. Put it on the table.
thanks for educating me on this, sir. So you spoke about extractions. Now, I've not heard anybody discussing about the most critical thing which is in my mind, extraction of Indians who are stuck in the Middle East right now.
We have
Do we have a non-combatant
evacuated
plan?
4 lakhs already.
Yes, we have. But do we have a proper plan around it? Because
In this evacuation, we have done pretty well in the past. Kuwait, Iraq, we have never failed in evacuation. In fact, last time I think it was General VK Singh who was put in charge of all
for
this.
the Yemen, during the Yemen war, right?
So that we have done pretty well. Disaster and all, we are very good.
So
I am worried about combat capacities.
So you think that is not a worry for us?
I don't think so. Not evacuation, we have done pretty well. I keep saying we are a great military only if we start reforming. We are a great country if we start reforming. Look at DPI. कितनी हमने कमाल की चीजें. This, look at the damn infra, the way it has changed here. Airports, roads. Delhi airport is better than New York airport. I can swear on that. I went to New York.
So I was going through the report of
Today, Jewar is being inaugurated, isn't it? Jewar, Noida.
So definitely, I agree with that. That today Indian airports, and in fact, what they used to call the third world, the airports out here are far better than any of the Western countries that I've been to.
Absolutely.
Both in terms of the facilities, in terms of the security, in terms of the diligence of checking the passengers.
Yeah.
You know, बाहर तो मेरे को सब चलता है, एटीट्यूड ही लग रहा होता है कई बार सिक्योरिटी क्लियरेंस को लेकर. And you wonder कि यार, you know, whether the man on the other side is.
I wonder whether I've said this in your show. Indians beat the Chinese in the most competitive human laboratory in the world, USA. But let's not ever say that Indians cannot do it. Can we create the right ecosystem for Indians? Kishore Nagwani tells us that if Indians in India are allowed to operate by the ecosystem at 25% of something like 25 or 50% of the capacities of their Indian counterparts in USA, our GDP would be $25 trillion. तो आप भारतीय को रोकें ना, ये बाधाएं हटाएं, जो नियमों का जाल वाल ये हटा रखा है, ये हटाएं. And ask the right questions, not the wrong questions. There's no relationship or jointmanship with the number of schools.
All right, sir. So there was a report which was study done by Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. This was about harvest now and decrypt later.
About?
Harvest now and decrypt later. It was about the advent of quantum computing and breaking the codes, which today you have the RSA and the ECC codes using the Shor's algorithm. Now the problem, just to simplify it, उसमें ये था कि China today they have the capacity, thanks to the phones and the cameras and the Huawei's and everything of the world, they are collating data across the world, right? And that may or may not be decrypted. Even the encrypted data they are, holding on. It's all about breaking the code and the 128-bit SSL securities and so on. Moment that happens, that means a decryption of nuclear codes also happen. Are we even thinking on those lines as a fourth or third most evolved power?
We are thinking. I have said this in a number of shows. I'm glad you asked this question. You've done your research very well. The CIA, 2 years back, in its assessment on the national security challenges before USA, said that the only threat greater than the PLA is quantum. And they said in that report that, what do you call this busting of codes?
Decryption?
Decryption.
Yeah.
Commercial decryption of banks has already been done. This capacity exists in labs. It's not being used.
In the Chinese labs.
Chinese and others, Europeans and all. That is a technological feat. Military decryption is a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But it is the next on the charts. And you're absolutely right. If the nuclear codes can be decrypted, what is it going to do? And I've heard this also. I've read it, in fact, somewhere, that the Chinese have already taken data,
Our code.
coded data, and captured it on the premise that once quantum happens, they will decrypt it. Quantum computer will solve a problem in 120 seconds, then the fastest supercomputer takes 120 years to solve. That is what quantum is going to be.
120 seconds and 120 years.
Years. That is how game-changing quantum is going to be. In GPS-denied environments in Ukraine, quantum is already in use. Quantum-fired solutions are being used. So quantum is the next thing after AI. And AI and quantum together will create a new set of strategic haves and have-nots.
Where are we on this?
So we, in my reading, are late off the blocks. Some work has begun. We have a lot to do, but one good news I can give you, that one startup, Qbeats, I think you call him here, he's got an order from the MOD. So that by itself is a big thing. MOD has now given an order for quantum.
So,
but now see what you need to do further, like what you are doing. We need a particular podcast on AI with somebody, quantum with somebody. Start digging deep into those domains. वो भी होना है.
I'll start working on that, sir.
Yes, certainly.
Thanks for encouraging me on that. Because ये जो China की problem and decryption की, the timelines we are talking about is before 2030. That is.
It will be earlier.
Will be earlier.
Of course.
Are we even wargaming that? So I mean, you've been in a military for a good part of your life. Are we even thinking? Are we wargaming those scenarios that where our nuclear codes have been decrypted and so on? I mean, how are we preparing with whatever we have?
So we are. These conversations have been on for a while. But in India, the biggest problem is not the conversations, it is the capacities. So I'm of the view that for the next 10 years, we should stop talking, put our heads down. Two things: capacity, capacity, capacity. Deterrence, deterrence, deterrence. Speak softly, but carry a big stick. उल्टा कर रहे हैं.
Sir, capacity building is very important, and China did not become what they are overnight. और हमने तो शायद वो जर्नी अभी उस तरीके से स्टार्ट भी नहीं की हुई है.
स्टार्ट की हुई है, तेजी लानी.
how do we mitigate threat in the meantime? And I'm coming to a point. If you see, when Op Sindoor happened, right? After that, Pakistani pilots, they started training on fifth generation fighters, on J-20s. A typical conversion from one type of aircraft to another aircraft takes anywhere between 3 to 6 months, depending on the pilot's capability, is what my guesstimate is, or my knowledge is. So that means today Pakistani pilots could be ready to fly a J-20 and attack India. We have not even zeroed on a platform that we want to buy as far as fifth generation is concerned. And we are talking about roadmaps, which is very, very important, of maybe decadal roadmaps. How do we mitigate? Is foreign policy, diplomacy good enough to keep the enemy at bay?
So nobody is saying that. But there are problems here. Firstly, the only authentic stealth platform that I know of is F-35. ये बाकी सब पे question marks हैं. J-20, their claims.
Yeah.
What is the degree of stealth is yet to be proven. What is our dilemma? F-35, there is a long line. अगर आप ट्रम्प से F-35 मांगोगे, वो 120 conditions लगा देगा. दूसरा, even if you get F-35, it has a weekly software update. So you have to start investing in software. You cannot import software. And don't we have the best IT talent? Why should the MOD not induct 100 data engineers in the next month and put them on all these things? We have the best software minds. कहना बंद करो. उनको लगा दो ये सारे systems में. कुछ तो होगा. Instead of constantly talking. Now to the serious question, that without stealth you cannot penetrate the contested envelope. You can do standoff targeting. What did Epic Fury do? First standoff targeting, cleared, then stand-in targeting, then cleared, and now Apaches are flowing over Tehran. It's not one direct loop.
Correct.
And what was the first enabler for that? F-35s and B-2s in the first strike.
True.
Now since we don't have it, F-35 की मुश्किल है. Su-57 is question mark. अगर वो stealth काम किया होता तो रशिया यूक्रेन की इस हालत में होता. So stealth is a challenge. So the first thing is, let's start working on a stealth platform.
Which will take years.
May not. If we do it in the same RFP mode, it will take 40 years. If you put one good officer, 2 scientists, say $300 billion, and get scientists at rock star pay, the best in the world, Indians को बुला लो, तो नहीं हो सकता क्या? Chances बढ़ जाते हैं. दूसरा, मन में ये जानो that there is no thing as technology transfer. It is an illiterate argument. You have to reverse engineer. साम दाम दंड भेद, ये एक प्रोजेक्ट चलेगा. और जब तक वो प्रोजेक्ट नहीं होता है तो आप करिए जो मैं आपसे कह रहा था, ड्रोन enabled AI frontiers along the LACLC, upgrade your AD and drone missile force. Iran doesn't have stealth, it has still survived. So that is a way. Common sense arguments. So work on stealth, work on this, but हम क्या करेंगे? If you do stealth with the standard RFP, you might as well not do it.
वो होगी नहीं सर.
होगी नहीं. If stealth is so important, let us get the 10 best minds on stealth from the world. So you have to do things in a different way. हो क्यों नहीं सकता है? The larger issue, why can't we have combat overmatch with Pakistan and asymmetric deterrence with China? If Ukraine, a country without an air force or a navy, can keep Russia at bay for 4 years, we with all its strengths can't deter China asymmetrically based on innovation and structural cultural changes. But उसमें अगर हम बहाने मारेंगे कि till our squadron strength comes down, goes up, we will not do theater commands, मत करो. चाइना ने किए theater commands. तो बहानेबाजी बंद करो. Structural, cultural. So these things aggregate. One is the budget, $450 billion is the military component of the power differential. But $500 billion is the excuses of all these lazy kinds. Theater command नहीं बनाएंगे, DRDO reform नहीं करेगा.
बहुत आलसी हो गए हैं सर.
सोच में, may not be by design, but by not understanding the implications of all these things. But it's a brutal world. Acting has payoffs, not acting has consequences.
Sir, but to look at it comprehensively, I have that question for the military also. We take a lot of time in testing the equipment.
Absolutely.
मतलब वो RFP stage पे तो बात की
There is no need. I mean, let's say, why can't the vice chief knock off all those testing? The vice chief है. कौन करेगा आके मेरे को बताओ?
एंड उसके लिए तो सर एटलीस्ट किसी ब्यूरोक्रेट की जरूरत नहीं है.
नहीं है, और अगर उसमें है भी तो कर दो. Put it down and file that has been adequately tested. It is fit to be operationally fielded.
Are our forces today not
And
as...
I'm not saying that don't do trials, but in a sensible manner.
Sir,
You
is
don't
it-
need to try a thing over 4 years.
Sir, is it a leadership problem?
Of course it is. It is initiative, it is
That
leadership.
their forces are not as lethal as they
No,
could
the
have been.
point is that once we were not like that. Now we are also becoming bureaucracies like the civil bureaucracy. See, the current defense secretary, I hear very good things about him, DPP, DPM. There are a lot of good things, but they are still behind the curve. The problem in national security is not whether I was better than what I was 5 years back. I have to be better than what China is today. It is like boxing. You have to win. You cannot say, I completed all the process, now I'm in the ring, now I should win. You have to win.
So, where's the next war going to be? Now, coming to the question, because if US did all this to show it to China that I'm the boss, do we see Taiwan action happening? On the other hand is कि US तो यहाँ पे busy हो गया, so this is like post-Iraq 2003 era. This is the right time to attack Taiwan.
So if I know China well, China will not attack. China will create such deterrence and pop the question to the Americans that in this deterrence, do you want to fight?
Kindly
And-
explain the scenario, sir.
So, 1950, Mao was standing on the eastern coastline and said, there is Taiwan 100 kilometers, 48 hours. And the Americans brought in their aircraft carriers. He had to back off. 1958, when a similar attempt was made, this time the Americans threatened with nuclear weapons. Mao had to back off. 95, 96, another crisis, Bill Clinton brings 2 aircraft carriers. Chinese back off. Then they do A2AD. Sensors and shooters across 7 domains. Rockets, missiles, drones. Now, in 2022, the Chinese exercised 2 brigades. This year they exercised 42 brigades.
Sorry.
2022, 2 brigades.
2 brigades.
This year 42 brigades.
And what they're doing, sir?
एक्सरसाइज कर रहे हैं,
वहाँ पे
बिल्कुल ब्लॉकेड कर रहे
साउथ
हैं.
चाइना.
आप यहाँ बैठे हो, आप नोटिस करते हो कि ये कि नहीं, साइकोलॉजिकली आपको क्या हो रहा है? माओ तो यार कुछ कर ही नहीं पाया था, अब 42 ब्रिगेड्स, 1 मिसाइल 2 मिसाइल जाती हैं, आगे गिरती हैं जाके. आपको याद आता है तेहरान में क्या हुआ कि नहीं हुआ? Every time the Americans send aircraft carriers, now what does Paparo offer? Hellscape drones. The aircraft carriers cannot enter. How is the deterrence equation changed? 2022, they committed 1/3 of their amphibious force. This time, 2/3. अब private conversation where Trump meets Xi, मैं बोलूँगा कि there's no point fighting. Look at the thing. Can we do a deal on Taiwan? I'm not saying Trump will do it, but will he start thinking? And then I blockade one day. What have you been able to do in Hormuz when the blockade is enforced? Iran. वो तो चाइना है. अब आपको अगर ब्लॉकेट तोड़ना है, क्यूबन क्राइसिस में the Soviet Union had to come all the way. This time you have to come all the way. Project power. Who's in an advantage? So capacities create deterrence. So your fundamental question is, when is the next war? My answer to you is, create capacities in deterrence, you will not have war.
So in fact, there was a report by the US intelligence, 19th March की report है, and today they have all the capability to flex that in back again in Taiwan, and America may not interfere because they're occupied. How about they putting the same pressure in Arunachal and across the LAC? So 2 choke points, one Taiwan, the other the entire LAC. We've seen that happening in Europe.
LAC, we are pretty strong. I don't think they can do that. LAC, after the rebalancing that we have done after Galwan, We have majorly rebalanced infantry, armor, artillery, force multipliers, logistics. To my mind, with technologies, so asymmetric deterrence, yes. With
That's there.
technologies, we can ensure the asymmetric deterrence with China along the LAC. And that should free us to focus on other things like maritimity and all that. So I don't think LAC we have those weaknesses. After Galwan, we have also
LAC is
done a
fairly
lot
fortified.
in my mind. But it doesn't mean that you relax now. Infra should go on. In terms of troop levels and posture, we are okay. But we should now do that stuff more of technologies. Drone enabled, AI frontiers, those kind of stuff. Targeting, LEO, space. That is what we need.
And of course, upgrading our game in the Indian Ocean region.
Yes.
So I'll just come to the. So I'll come to the last part of the. Let me put it not the last part, almost the last. All right. If there was a single most important structural change that you would, stake your reputation for, ये तो मैं करके रहूँगा, to bring a lethal change in the way we think and the way we execute, what will that be? So.
See, there is, I can give you 3 to 4 priorities. So say this year, let's get those 1 lakh Shahid drones. It's not a big thing. Let's get those 2 lakh Merop interceptors. Not a big thing. Start off the turn to the seas. Look at our shipbuilding rates, warship production rates. Can we merge the civilian and naval shipyards? Can we start creating a A2AD in the IOR, just like the Chinese did in the first island chain? And Sudarshan Chakra. Start off on these 3-4 things. Theatre commands may not be a bad idea to show the world that we mean business.
Right, sir. All right, sir. I think, sir, that's where I would want to conclude the discussion today. We had multiple topics, and I can't be more thankful to you.
Thank you.
Spending so much of time and educating me on various aspects of technology, warfare, and about a bit of foreign policy also. So I try to do justice to your time, but thanks a lot for coming again and spending the Saturday afternoon with me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot.